So, before we get started, we had some questions about who the boys are. This crazy black lab is Walker. All right, Walk, go away. Go see Daddy. Come here, Cash. And then we got Walker. I didn't call you. Cash, come here. Sit. Can you sit? Okay, that crazy guy is Cash. Yeah. No, you're done. Okay, go see Daddy. Go see Daddy. Go see your daddy. All right. So I had some students asking yesterday who the dogs were and to introduce them. So really quick before we get started in front desk, I wanted to go over a couple of your vocabulary words. So one of them was cross-referenced yesterday, and the sentence was, in the front office, Mr. Yao picked up the stack of registration cards and started flinging them onto the table one by one as he cross-referenced them with his list. So it's looking at multiple sources or multiple pieces of information to see your answer or to compare them. The opposite, or what cross-referencing is not, is when you're only looking at one piece of information. The other word was humiliation. So the humiliation had burned a hole in my tongue. What it is, well, it's embarrassment. What it's not, confidence. The other one, so I did Hank and Lupe's yesterday for our character traits. I said Hank is kind because he's always nice to Mia's family. And he gave Mia burgers when he made like the cracker burgers, and he protected both Mia and her mom against bad guys. I said Hank is hardworking because he never missed a day at work and he was never late, and he didn't give up when he was searching for a job. And then I also said Hank is loyal. He protects Mia's family. He's loyal friends with the Weeklies at the Calavista. And there's many more examples. I also did Lupe's. I said Lupe is artistic. She draws trees and lots of other things. I said Lupe is shy because she doesn't stand up for Mia when Mia needs her in class. And she doesn't want to do a lot of different adventures. And she doesn't volunteer a lot in class either. But I did say Mia is smart. She gives really good advice and has a lot of insight into America for Mia, and she gets good grades with the example of the paper. I'm not going to go over DOLs because it's just hard not being able to show you things. And then the other author's viewpoint, that's really looking at what you think the author's viewpoint is and providing evidence and what your own viewpoint is. So I think those are things that you can do on your own and turn them in when you come back. I had some questions too about if you weren't here to get these packets on Friday, if that's going to affect your grade. No, Miss Nestor and I wanted you to know whatever you get done out of here, whatever free writes you do, keep it and turn it in, and we will give you extra credit. If you did not get those packets, like I said, do free writes. So write on line piece of paper or type it or whatever, send it to us, and we'll think about some MobyMax time too as well. We're still trying to iron out those details. This is a very fluid situation. We do not have all the answers either. We're just trying to do the best that we can. So yesterday we ended up in front desk with Mia getting the news that she did not win the essay contest for the motel. So we're going to start at chapter 58, and we're going to keep reading. Apparently Cash is going to stay in here with us today. All right, chapter 58. We sat in silence, the hot tears pooling in my eyes, Billy Bob's hands balling into fists, and Mrs. Q shaking her head, blinking hard, blowing her nose into a tissue like someone had died. Because, in a way, that's what it felt like. Our dream had died. "This is crap!" Hank yelled. He looked madder than I'd ever seen him before. Madder even when he threw that guy out of the front office. "It's okay," I said softly. "No, it's not okay," he bellowed. He got up and walked across the room. "How could they do this?" Maybe what I wrote just wasn't... The lump in my throat became a boulder. Just wasn't good. They slithered in like eels. "You're a bike. The other kids are cars. You'll never be as good as the white kids in their language." I tried to stop, but it was no use. Doubt came in through every pore. Hank shook his head. "You know what? I bet this whole thing's a scam, Hank said. They're probably not even giving away a motel. They just wanted the money. Probably thought $300 is nothing to people. They didn't know you sold your lucky pennies. My dad's face plunged. You sold our lucky pennies? He asked. He looked away immediately, but there for a second in which I saw into him crystal clear. I saw his hope fade away. We'll help you find new ones, Hank said, looking around at the other weeklies. We'll all look, won't we? The weeklies instantly started digging into their pockets for loose change. No, it's fine, my dad said. I'm fine. Later that night, the weeklies went back to their rooms, and I sat with an emptiness that was almost unbearable. I went out back to look for my dad, and I found him sitting by himself in the laundry room. Hey, Dad, I said. He looked up at me, his eyes pink and moist, like he'd been crying. Hey, sweetheart, he said. He quickly dabbed his eyes with towels. I'm sorry I sold our lucky pennies, I said to him. I told myself I wasn't going to cry, but the tears came anyway. My father pulled me into his arms. Hey, no, it's okay. You win some and you lose some, he said, kissing me on the top of my head. But I always lose some. My dad looked down at me and wiped a tear away, too. That's not true, he said. Because of you, Uncle Zhang's now free. Hank has a new job. I'd call that a win. But I really wanted to win for us this time, I muttered. My dad rocked me in his arms. I know, sweetheart, he said. His voice was shaking. I know you did. Chapter 59. So that's it? I'm not going, I told Lupe the next day at school. I can't believe this, she said. Did they even say who won? I shook my head. I bet it was their cousin or their son or something stupid like that, she said. It couldn't have been your essay. I read your essay. It was so good. It felt good to hear her say that, although a part of me still wasn't sure. We were sitting on the grass in PE, way out in left field, avoiding the ball at any chance of injury as usual, and Lupe picked up a blade of grass and twirled it around her finger. You know, I'm kind of glad you're not going, she said. So you don't have to stay with Jason all by yourself, I asked, squinting at the sun. So I don't have to stay on the roller coaster all by myself, she whispered. It occurred to me at that moment what it had been like for Lupe if I had left. I always thought I was the one who needed her, that I was the barnacle to her whale. But it wasn't one way. We needed each other, me and Lupe. She had been trying to tell me this all along, but it never really hit me until now. Well, you don't have to worry, I said. I'm not going anywhere. Lupe smiled at me. I'll be on the roller coaster for a long, long time, I said. Lupe shook her head. Nope, you're not. You're getting off, she said. We're both getting off. Together. She put her hand on top of mine, and I looked down at our two hands on the grass. Later that day, after we filed back into class, Mrs. Douglas turned to us and clapped our signal, and everyone clapped back. As everyone sat up in their seats and listened, she turned to me. Mia, will you please come to the front of the class? Mrs. Douglas asked. I glanced worriedly at Lupe as I got up and walked over. Now, class, you all remember the stories I asked you to write a while back about a small moment in your life? Mrs. Douglas asked. My heart jumped to my throat. Mia, here, wrote about what it was like to come to America on an airplane, she said. Anyway, the other 5th grade teachers and I got together, and we read everyone's story, and we all agree that Mia's story? She paused for what felt like an eternity. I squeezed my eyes shut. Is absolutely wonderful. My jaw dropped. Mrs. Douglas handed me my story. Mia, will you please read your story for the rest of the class? I blinked at Mrs. Douglas, waiting for her to say, oh wait, there's been a mistake. Was this going to be like the chocolate notebook all over again? I told myself, don't. Do not feel warm and fuzzy, not yet. But then I snuck a peek down at my paper. There were red marks all over it, just like the last time, and lots of exclamation marks. But they didn't scream bad grammar in shouty caps. They said things like, moved me to tears, and, oh, Mia, this is incredible. Go on, Mrs. Douglas said. Read your story to the class. Right now, I asked. Mrs. Douglas nodded. With trembling hands, I took it from her and slowly began to read. As I read, my voice wavered. My throat was prickly, my lips dry. Still, I pushed forward in my tiny voice. When I finished reading, The whole room was silent. Everyone's eyes were on me. I stood so still, if a breeze swept through the classroom, I think I would have fallen. And then, amid the deafening silence, I heard a sound. The sound of clapping. I looked up to see Lupe clapping. A few kids joined her, and soon almost everyone in the room was clapping, even Jason Yao. I felt my throat pinch with emotion. That was beautiful, Mrs. Douglas said. I looked up at her, swelling with pride in her face, and I instantly forgave her for giving away my sparkly pencil. Thank you, Mrs. Douglas, I said, and started going back to my seat. Wait, Mrs. Douglas said, I have something for you. She reached inside her desk and pulled out a small piece of paper, which she handed to me. I peered at the words, Pizza Hut, written on it. 2 free pizzas at Pizza Hut for you and a friend, she said. I looked up at Mrs. Douglas. I looked into her eyes. Are you sure? Are you sure there hasn't been a mistake? When enough time passed, and I finally was sure she wasn't going to take it away, I looked over at Lupe. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Chapter 60. Mom! I raced up the stairs 2 at a time. My parents were in the middle of cleaning room 22. My mother was holding Windex in one hand and Lysol in the other. Mom! Dad, guess what? I won a writing contest at school! I exclaimed. Are you serious? My mom asked. When did this happen? Today, I said, handing her my coupon for Pizza Hut. My dad beamed. He put his vacuum cleaner down and took me into his arms and spun me around. What did I tell you? You win some and you lose some, he exclaimed. I grinned. Lupe's coming over, I said to my mom. Will you take us to Pizza Hut? Will I ever? My mom said, tossing her Lysol and Windex to the side. I laughed. Ever since I could remember, my mom had been asking my dad to take her out to eat. But of course, we could never afford it. And now we could finally go. We didn't even need to carry a fake shopping bag. The pizza at Pizza Hut was bubbling hot. My mouth watered before I even tasted it, just from the smell wafting toward us from the kitchen. Lupe dug into hers, smiling as she devoured the cheese. This is so good, Lupe said. I put a slice onto my mom's plate. She took a bite and purred. It was almost enough watching the 2 of them. I was so happy. I looked around the room thinking of all the times I walked by this place, peering through the windows, wondering what it was like to sit in one of the booths. Mia, you gotta taste this, my mom said, pointing to my slice. I took a bite and felt the soft dough melt in my mouth. I had pizza at school before, but not like this. I closed my eyes, savoring every morsel of cheese and pepperoni. It was heavenly. My mother looked at me and said, I'm so proud of you. Not bad for a bicycle, right? I asked with a grin. I couldn't resist. My mom put the pizza down and turned to me. You're not a bicycle, she said. The truth is, I'm the bicycle. Mom, you're not. Yes, I am. You see how my English is. My English is terrible. I thought about the stupid woman who made fun of my mom's pronunciation. So you say eggplant. Eggplant? Who cares? My mom shook her head. It's not only that, it's everything. She looked down at the ground and then back up at me. Math I could help you with, but Mia, I can't help you with English. I finally understood why my mother had been saying all these things. She didn't want to hurt me. She wanted to help me, and she couldn't with English. That's why she was constantly pushing me to do math. I wanted to say to her, Mom, have faith in me. I can do it on my own. I figured out the front desk, didn't I? Don't worry, Mom, I said to her. You don't always have to help me. I can do it. My mom didn't say anything for a long time. Then she smiled. Clearly, you can, she said. That afternoon, as we inhaled slice after slice of deliciousness, my mom asked Lupe about her family in Mexico. We left when I was little, and I don't get to see them very often, Lupe said. Why don't you guys go back and visit? I mean, since it's so close, I said. I would go back every day to China if it were right there. Lupe shrugged. My mom says every time we go, we have to buy so many presents for everyone. I have 11 cousins, and that's just on my mom's side, Lupe said. On my dad's side, let's see. I have, Lupe counted on your fingers, 7, she announced. You must miss them so much, my mom said, glancing at me. Sometimes, she said, but they all think America's the super rich place where everyone just plays golf all day and drives around in a Cadillac. My mother laughed. It's the same with my siblings, my mom said. I think they get that from the movies. Lupe sighed. I wish there were a movie that told them what it's really like, Lupe said. My mom shook her head. No way, my mom said. That would be so embarrassing. Lupe reached for another slice. This is really nice, by the way, Lupe said, looking at me. Thanks for inviting me. I smiled back at her. There was nobody in the world I'd rather share this with. Well, except... Hey, should we save some for Dad? I asked. I bet he's never tasted anything like this before. Real pizza, not the frozen kind from the grocery store. Against our stomachs' loud protests, I put my slice down, and so did my mother. She raised her hand for a to-go box. Back at the motel, we found my dad in the kitchen making himself some rice with cabbage. Forget the cabbage, my mom said with a smile and handed him the pizza box. Look what your daughter brought you. My dad huffed and puffed about how we didn't have to do that, but I could tell he was secretly glad that we did. As he bit into his pizza, his eyes closed and he moaned. That's where we're going to stop right there. So tomorrow I will read a little bit more. We only have 2 more days left of reading. I would suggest still waiting off to do Jason and Mr. Yao's part until the end. But I would get to work on your DOLs. Those can be done, as well as your author's viewpoint and I know that word. If you've already finished everything, please make sure you're reading every day. Please make sure you're writing every day. And please go on MobyMax. MobyMax Language, MobyMax Literature Skills, MobyMax Informational Skills. Please do some math on MobyMax. Like I said yesterday, Mr. Wyckoff has assigned some lessons that you guys can do. And I think Mr. Mays is posting stuff on Google Classroom. If he hasn't, go on IXL and do some science and social studies. If you need your MobyMax password, if you need anything like that, please email me or text me on Remind, and I will get that out to you as quick as possible. I'm not on my computer, on my phone all day, but I will try and respond within 24 hours. Miss you guys a lot. I hope everything's going great. Hopefully we get some more answers soon, and we know what's going to happen. So make sure you're getting exercise too. All right, love you guys. Miss you guys.